Let's bring him in. Jerricho, gosh darn Cotchery, baby. Jerricho, good evening.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, let me ask you, Jerricho, is there any special feelings here when you get the draft? Any of those juices and bubbles floating from yesteryear?
Oh, yeah, always, always. It just flashes back to that memory where, 516 popped up on my telephone there and was just excited to hear, the New York Jets on the other side of it.
Who was on the phone when they gave you the call?
Yeah, Terry Bradway, and then he passed it over on to Woody Johnson, and then also Herm Edwards.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the conversations, or is it a blur? What was the conversation like when you got the phone?
Yeah, all of that is a blur. I don't recall anything that was said on the other hand over there. I was just excited, man, to be to hear my name called and just to receive that phone call and have a dream come true.
Well, let me ask you, what you end up doing for your draft day? Did you have a party at the house? Did you do something local? What'd you do for draft day?
Yeah, just at the house, hung out with the family. Just had a bunch. We just sat around and we ate, and we watched the draft from there, and just waited on that call.
Let me ask you, obviously it's I guess it's evolved certainly over the years, the pre-draft process where players are going through all the boot and caboodle with combines, pro days, all these top 30 visits and everything else that's included throughout that run. Did you have any indication? Because there are a lot of teams in the National Football League all talking to you left and right. It's hard to know what's true or what's not. How much of a connection did you feel with the Jets? Did it surprise you ultimately that the Jets were the team that selected you of all the teams in the NFL on draft day?
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise at all. Really, I thought we hit it off, at the combine and that meeting there. Just everyone in the room, it just felt like that was going to be the place for me, in the draft. So I was extremely excited about that because I just felt, just really comfortable with the group as a whole, and especially Coach Edwards.
So, combine interview. We hear all kinds of things. You guys sometimes get asked some very strange questions in there. Is it tape? Is it personal questions? What take us through for a lot of us that will never be in those rooms? My wonderful Hall of Fame career ended in high school, so I never got one of those chats in Indianapolis. What are the conversations like in those combine meetings?
For me, I never got any of those weird questions that everyone speak about. Really, it was just them getting to know me, and one of the things I wasn't expecting to hear was, who's your favorite artist, your favorite music artist, and so that was that was an icebreaker there that really just kind of, set the tone for that Jets interview process there. So it was really good for me.
2004, number 108 overall, Jerricho Cotchery, fourth round draft selection out of NC State. Jerricho, did you have any idea where you were going to go in the draft? Because, again, that's something we all speculate and talk about. Obviously, that's blown up to maybe even a different level here in 2025 because of all the media attention. Did you have any idea where you were going to go in that draft?
Yeah, they told me, leading up to the draft, middle of the third to the top of the fourth, and that's kind of what I was hearing the entire time. And just really, I knew ahead of time it was a loaded draft, so that was pushing me down there. But I was excited about where I landed.
Well, the feeling's mutual, Jerricho Cotchery. I am very excited where you landed as well. A wonderful experience with the New York Jets where you spent the majority of your NFL career. And again, one of my favorite Jets of all time. We'll get into some of those memories as well. If you guys have questions in the chat for Jerricho Cotchery, you guys can super chat those in, and we'll get to those as well as we have Jerricho Cotchery here, baby, on draft day. A wonderful way to kick off this live stream, which will be going on for the next 4+ hours here on the show. Which is going to be terrific here on the program. Let me ask you this, Jerricho. Who are some of your favorite Jets teammates of all time? You played with a lot of great ones during your time with the green and white.
Oh, wow. There are so many. There's so many. To start off, really, I was spoiled because I had a lot of veterans when I came in as a rookie, so Chad Pennington, Curtis Martin, Kevin Mawai, all of those guys, Big Cat Sean Ellis,
Hey.
Donnie Abraham was a cornerback there. I was spoiled with a lot of veteran guys that can show me the ropes, on and off the field. So I was very spoiled. A lot of great teammates throughout the years. Later coming down the line, the young bucks at that time for me, Nick Mangold, Leon Washington. That whole draft class there was just really a special class, and I loved everyone in that group. The Brickenshaw Ferguson, obviously, they're just a really good group. Did I mention Brad Smith?
You did not. Brad Smith, come on, man. The Wildcat man, everything. I mean, he did a little bit of everything for the Jets.
Yeah, so that group there was very instrumental in that later run too that we had in 2009 and 2010 as well. So just a lot of great teammates throughout the years. Brendan Moore was one of my favorites there.
Oh yeah, I love Brandon.
Yeah, he was a guy that was going to have your back, every step of the way. And so, but obviously the man there, Revas.
Oh yeah,
Revas. Incredible player there, Hall of Famer, all of that there, Kerry Rhodes, all of those.
Sure.
David Harris, man, we had a great group. We had a great group of guys, and I think that was the reason why we had, so much success in that time period.
Was it, I know there's a lot of football reporters that hate this cliche of iron sharpens iron. But Darrelle Revis, I mean, that must have been pretty special, those practices where Jerricho, Revas Island going one-on-one, mano-y-mano. Some of those practices must have been pretty wild, Mr. Cotchery.
Yeah, he was a competitor. Every day was game day for him, and you knew going to bed that night that it was going to be a game day the next day. If you made a play on him, you made a play on him that day before, you know you're going to have to strap it up the next day and be ready to roll. It's the funny thing about Revas is, a lot of the guys that, you hear conversations about, the greatest and all of that stuff there. But you never hear receivers talking about him. You never hear receivers talking smack about him, because, there was just a lot of respect for him and the way he carried himself, the way that he competed, like he was the real deal, and all receivers know that.
Well, let me ask you this. So, Cotchery, you were always, from my perspective, very, very reserved. You didn't. I didn't see a lot of Carlton dances happening out there in the end zone, or a lot of. At least we didn't just see a lot of the trash talk. You just sort of was the Barry Sanders, hand the ball to the ref and keep moving. Was that the same way in practice, or were you able to get a little willy-nilly, a little, get a little loose in practice where you get something on Revas and you got to give him a little, huh?
Yeah, I'm reserved, but I got some juice to me,
Okay.
That I'm good for a celebration here and there, for sure. I think if you go back through all of the highlights, you'll see some of that, and my teammates knew that as well. But yeah, the game produces a lot of emotions, But for me, I used to always try to stay balanced, even keeled, and all of it. Where I was making a great play or a play that I didn't make, unfortunately. So just always try to remain even keeled. But yeah, I did have some celebrations in the repertoire.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, quality over quantity, baby. They were always pretty damn good. I need to make sure I have my timeline right. When you came in 2004, did we still have Santana Moss in the wide receiver room?
Yes, we did. We did.
Oh, okay. Was he someone that took you under his wing, or were there other guys that sort of filled some of that role, whether in the receiver room or elsewhere on the team?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Santana was great. He was great to me, when I first got in, all of the rookie stuff, how people treat you and stuff like that. But I had great vets in the room. Justin McCarron, obviously Wayne Corbett was still there. Just had a great group of vets in the room that I could learn from. And so I think that was instrumental in my career as well.
I love it. Hey, throughout this show, we're going to have fan questions coming in, so we appreciate those. Less than 321, a new member to the Boy Green Coffee Club, is sending this one in. Jerricho, you were on the first Jets team I fell in love with, fan since the early 2000s. What is your most memorable or your favorite catch of your Jets career?
Oh, man. I think just you always go back to the Cleveland game, the one where I got injured before the catch.
Hmm.
I think that's the one that just constantly comes to mind because
November 2010. Yes, Jets
yeah,
Browns.
it just demonstrated the way that I wanted to play the game. Leave it all out there. Just scratch and claw. For everything that was out there for me. And so I think that was indicative of my mindset. That play right there.
Well, let me ask you, because for people that may or may not have forgotten that play, so you know, you appear to be injured. You're sort of limping, right? It's like you appear to be hurt, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the ball comes up, and you go Superman. You just kind of and get it in, and we were like in disbelief. How did this guy who's injured and hobbling on the field all of a sudden out of nowhere just pull out like a Madden move? And I'm like, where did this come from Jerricho? So what injury? I don't know if you remember what exactly were you dealing with? What were you going through? And then to be able to say, yeah, let me put that aside. I got a job to do here on the gridiron.
Well, yeah, I released off the line and, just my hand warmer. I always wore it, for the most part behind me. And so the DB just tugged on it. And as soon as he tugged on it, boom, I felt my groin pop. It just, just wasn't good at that point. And so I'm limping there. And Sanchez scrambles out and he throws it my way. And I think, at that point in time, it's just you see the ball, and nothing else matters at that point. And so, just came alive at that moment and made a catch, So the juices were still going after that. I was trying to line back up, but Brandon Moore said, get down, get down.
Oh, God.
That was a moment you got to come alive for.
Yeah, I love it. Also, again, so that would have been my number one. I'm not Jerricho Cotchery, but if someone would ask me what's your favorite Jerricho Cotchery catch, that would be up there. And so many countless ones from so many Jets Patriot games over the years, whether it's the playoff game in 2011 and you were able to, what's that, a 58-yarder where you move and groove and you're like, move out of the way, baby. Some people would have went out of bounds, not Jerricho Cotchery, baby. And oh God, that one gets me all kinds of fired up too. So, let me ask you this, Jerricho. Let's go here. What would a young Jerricho Cotchery have said if I would have told them, and we go back in time, and I tell a young Jerricho Cotchery in Birmingham, Alabama, and I say, hey, young man, you're going to have a 12-year career in the National Football League. What would a younger Jerricho Cotchery growing up in Alabama have said?
Oh man, well, I just had a firm belief that I was going to be able to accomplish this goal, accomplish that goal, and so that was a product of my dad instilling that in me, and just showing a great belief in who I was and what I could accomplish, and so if it was someone else, that was coming along the lines, I would agree with him because that's what my dad said, and so that's kind of how I look at it.
Beautiful. Let's get another super chat in here. Bubba Badshaw, 1999. We appreciate that. He's a massive Jerricho Cotchery fan. He said it in the weeks leading up, knowing you were going to be on the show. Jerricho, I got to see you and Brett Favre take out the undefeated Titans. I remember that, the 10-0 Titans in Nashville. You are the meaning of playing like a Jet. God bless you, and thanks for all you've done for this organization. I wear your jersey with pride, and all of us should represent the 8-9, baby. What about that game? Because I remember the quote from Brett Favre after the game where he said, I don't know if we're the best team in football, but we just beat the best team in football, that 10-0 Tennessee Titans team, talking that talk. Hey, when you get the dub, winners are the ones that write history, baby. What do you remember from that game, Jerricho?
Just a fun game overall. Just the way we finished it out, just running the ball, ground and pound. That was our identity. Seeing Leon Washington make the long run at the end and just kind of put everything to bed. That was a fun time there. I know he kind of, used his fist there like the knockout punch. That was it. That was just an incredible day. Going into the locker room, celebrating with the teammates. Seeing the offensive line saying like, "Yeah, we imposed ourselves on them." So that was a great day. That was a great day. That was a day where we thought we were, gonna going to make a run at it and do it all, but unfortunately we had some injuries there that took place. But
Sure.
yeah, that was a fun day for sure.
Absolutely love it. Shout out to Jets Dogs 101 here with the $9.99 super sticker coming here. Thanks for all the supporters. We're talking with Jerricho Cotchery for a few more minutes here on the show. What would your advice be, Jerricho Cotchery? One of the things I love is hearing from the NFL Rookie Symposium of veterans being able to talk to these young cats that are coming in the league and they're getting life-altering money. Which again, I guess in the NIL world, some of these people are having some of that money in college now, I guess, but they're getting this life-altering money, and boy, that's got to be tempting when you have people in your lives that are going to see the money and want to do things with you. You're going to have all this money, and you have to make decisions and balance being a professional and things of that nature. As someone who carved out an amazing career, a 12-year career in the National Football League, what would your advice be to a rookie who's either going tonight, as we're seeing all these crazy moves in the first round here, or any of the following days? What would your advice be?
Well, one, right, it's hard to make it to the NFL, right? But it's even harder to stay in the NFL, So yes, a dream is coming true, tonight and these subsequent days here. But it's even harder to stay in the NFL, And so, what got you there, right? You that's a thing of the past, right? It's not going to keep you there. So you're going to have to continue to grind, continue to improve your craft. At your craft, and you're just going to have to grind it out each and every year, in order to become, the player that you want to be, And so, other than that, off the field, money wise, learn how to say no. All right. At the end of the day,
how hard is that, Jerricho?
It's hard initially. If you're coming from circumstances where no one has come across that type of money, but you got to learn how to say no. At the end of the day, and you may not be liked in those moments, but you'll be appreciated later, So that's one thing I would say there, and another thing with the money, right? Not learning how to say no. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses, because there are going to be a lot of vets on the team already established and. Big homes, and they've taken care of their money, and they've afforded themselves, opportunities to go out and, purchase homes where they can put their families into and all of that stuff. And you see all of those things like, wow, I want that. And you try to get that right away, and your money is just constantly dwindling, So I wouldn't try to keep up with the Joneses. I would just focus more so on my craft. You are the investment in that way. Focus on your craft, and the other stuff will come.
Fair enough. And shout out here, Jets Dogs 101. Boy, great. Keep up the good work. Love to Jerricho and, Esden here on the show. Appreciate it. We have another question coming in from Hep. He says, Jerricho, any advice for Garrett Wilson? He's taking the torch here from Jerricho Cotchery. He's the new top dog wide receiver in the room. So what would your advice be to the young G-Dub, Garrett Wilson, on the Jets right now here in 2025?
Yeah, just stay on that grind. He's a fantastic player. Everybody knows it, right? So his opponents know it. Even if he's not, in the conversations, when people talk about the top receivers in the league, top 5 or whatever. But the guys that he go against, the DBs, the corners, they know it. And so I would say just stay on top of your game and stay locked in on that side of it. Everything else is going to take care of itself, but. Never settle, because when you're really good, sometimes you're blinded by, that reality and don't work to improve in other areas, So just always be looking for ways to improve, which I know he does, because you can look at it and see it, but always keep that mentality.
Let me ask you, Jerricho, because Garrett, you mentioned, and I agree with you, Garrett Wilson does not get considered when we're talking about, and media analysts are talking about the top receivers in football. Garrett Wilson does not get that love. And what a lot of people say is, well, he's played with 8 different quarterbacks in his 3 years in the league. It's not his fault that he's not getting more love. How do you manage that as a receiver? Because you can run the crispest route and do the craziest move and create separation, do everything. You can do everything right, and then boop, quarterback hits the guy with the selling popcorn in the stands, for Pete's sake. Like, you could do everything so right, and then the quarterback doesn't get it. So I could understand if I was a receiver, that would be an easily an easy position to get frustrated because, again, there's so much you can't control at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, and in that instance, you just got to block out the noise, so because from the outside looking in, you're going to hear media, speak about, him not getting catches or, him not having the yards that other guys have and all of those things there. But in the meantime, the guys that are going against him week in and week out, they're like, we got to account for him. We got to make sure that he doesn't, wreck this game, and so, I would just say locked in, block out all of the noise from that standpoint. But you can't control any of that. But he is a fantastic player for sure.
All right, let's wrap up here with a few things. First off, are there any of your past Jets teammates that you keep in contact with?
Well, Leon Washington,
Hey
yeah,
now.
that's for sure. Brandon Moore, all of these guys, Brad Smith, Chancey Stuckey. These guys that we were in the same room and all of that, so and Brandon lives in the area, and all of that. So it's a good group of guys, man. Fun to always speak with.
Well, for those who don't know, we had a smile back and forth about it. But for those who don't know, you're, and it always felt like during your career that this was your one of your missions in life was to give back to the game in the way that you have in coaching, which you've been doing since your playing career ended. You are currently the head coach at Limestone University. Leon Washington, is that another former Jet on the staff, baby? So how are you enjoying being a head football coach, Jerricho Cotchery? Like I said, it seems like something that was always destined for you from my perspective of seeing you. It always seemed like you had more to give back to the game beyond, of course, a wonderful career that you did. What did it mean to you? What does it mean to you to be a current college football head coach? And obviously, a shout out to our boy, Leon Washington, as well.
Well, yeah, you were correct the first time in saying did. Really, we were given some unfortunate news last week that, without a certain donation and things of that nature, that the program was going to be shutting down. So, but when it comes to giving back to the game, that's what it's about. The investment in the kids. We had our turn. And all of that. We're just trying to help them accomplish their goals personally and professionally, and so, having Leon, on the staff, man, what a blessing. What a blessing. He is an awesome coach. He's an awesome coach, and he's got a bright future at that level of detail that he has and all of that. I mean, it's been a blessing being around and being back around him.
Leon Washington is one of the smartest football players I've ever seen. Again, I remember the special teams play. There was a kickoff that was rolling down the sideline in a random game. I think it was Jets-Bills. And Leon Washington saw it wasn't going to go out of bounds, which would have been a penalty. So Leon walks out of bounds and then touches the ball. And then the refs are sort of confused at first. And Leon explains to them, hey, man, that's illegal touching. I'm out of bounds. I touched the ball. That means this. The refs went, yeah, Leon, you're right. Flag comes out, and I was just losing it because I was watching it here from home. I'm like, wow, look at the intel. He was telling the refs how to do their job, for Pete's sake. So a wildly intelligent player, there's no doubt about it. And we'll end here with a super chat coming in. This is from Dark Knight. Thank you very much. He said, Rex Ryan once had a quote, J-Co can catch the ball in a tornado. So, Jerricho, you always had absolute amazing hands for catching anything, and I think Jet fans are always going to remember that.
Well, no, I appreciate it. I get so much love from the Jets fans, man. It's crazy. I always had a great love for the fan base. How diehard, like true diehard, right? Mm-hmm. The fan base is. They're there through the thick and thin, and that stadium can get crazy, and so those were fun times, when I was with the Jets, how the stadium was rocking, week in and week out. And, I was glad to be a part of, those back-to-back AFC championship runs because that was a really, really fun time. And I know very rewarding to the fan base.
No doubt. Jerricho, we'll end here. What's your final message to Jet fans? We have a couple hundred in the room here that are watching live. We'll have several hundred more and thousands more that'll be watching this after the fact. Any shout out to Jet Nation, baby, all the Jet fans?
I mean, really, I would just say, keep supporting, keep rooting them on. You are the lifeline for the Jets in the way that they play, the way that they do things. So keep rooting them on, keep pushing them. And once we have that breakthrough, it's going to be fun. Right? It's going to be fun.
I just want to say from both player and Coach Cotchery, I love all our conversations. I love when we get to chat. I love when we can work together to help out anything with Limestone University as well. And I just want to give another special shout out. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight to hop on the show. I see all these Jet fans in the chat really appreciated it.
Oh, man. Thanks again for having me on.
Appreciate it. There he is, Coach Cotchery, baby, one of the best Jets of all time, joining us here on the program. An absolute legend. Let's go,